Right. Brexit is incredibly emotive, as we've just heard. I can't summarise it in 10 minutes. If I could, I would be incredibly wealthy. So what I'm going to do this morning is just deal in facts. Only going to talk about what exists now. There's lots and lots of hype. If you've listened to the Today programme this morning, there's all sorts of theories going around about Salzburg. And we're only going to offer practical advice. Now, this is probably the worst speaking slot I've ever had, following Jane Turner and Paul Dressler. I've also been given a very, very strong mandate by all of my partners that I have to be upbeat about Brexit. Yeah, so short of somebody saying stand on one leg and deliver this speech, I don't think it could be more difficult. So, sorry. Looking at the key dates, so again, this is factual. 23rd of August, the government issued all of the first batch of the 25 no-deal guidance notes. It was almost a kind of don't panic statement. Probably had more phone calls and emails than I've had in the last 2 years on the 24th of August, because people did panic, and it's quite clear there's not a lot of preparation. Week commencing the 15th of October, we've got the big council meeting. There's already talk this morning that that'll be extended into November, but we really are up to the 11th hour now in terms of the withdrawal agreement. 29th of March, we will leave the EU unless something spectacular happens. And then I think we will go into a transition period, and the actual agreement itself will be concluded before the 31st of December 2020. So the most common thing that I get is it's all too difficult. It's quite surprising how many very big businesses have not yet started contingency planning. And it's, you know, as Paul said, is it a soft Brexit? Is it a hard Brexit? I don't know what it's going to be, so I'm not going to do anything about it. First question I would say is, do you actually have to do anything? You know, very simple assessment. If you don't trade with the EU, if you don't send staff over to the EU, and you're not in an international supply chain, pretty much not much is going to change. And that's probably, according to latest statistics, about 4/5 of the businesses in the northeast. So there's not much going to change for a big proportion of our economy. We've come up with a very simple assessment, which you probably can't read, but there's a link to it there, that has 16 questions. And again, very simple. If you've got more red answers than green answers, you should maybe do some planning. If you've got lots of green answers or all green answers, don't worry about it. It is as simple as that. You can break it down to the basics. Talking about the basics, what would you do? Assess what the EU gives us. It's free movement of goods, free movement of services, people and finance. They're the 4 areas that you have to look at if you're doing some international trading. So if you're sending people across to the EU and we get a WTO arrangement, you're going to have a bit more admin. You're going to have to look at visas for travel, and you're going to have to check out the insurance provisions. But it's probably not more complicated than that. If you're sending goods across borders, there's these things called freight forwarders that have always existed, and they can transfer goods regardless of whether you're in the EU or in the WTO or anywhere else in the world. So if your business is dependent on shipping goods over hard borders into the EU, contact a freight forwarder. If you're doing services, a bit more complicated because of the proposed Chequers deal. A lot of people are now putting break clauses into the contracts just to make sure they can pause and take a step back if they have to. And money, kind of a bit of a surprise to some of our EU sort of friends that we don't have a system in this country where people automatically have 2 bank accounts. But if there's going to be money transfers and you're worried about how the arrangements work, open a bank account in one of the EU national states that you work in. Probably as basic as that. And then you can continue with the electronic transfers. So, yeah, I get that people are nervous about Brexit, and I get that it's a big sort of challenge, but it's not as bad as you think. So, sticking to the brief that Jane gave me to be quick and not overrun. In summary, change can be scary. We've just heard that. We've heard that from Paul, that, you know, it's going to be one of the strangest periods in history that we have. Fine. We'll break it down to the component parts. Like I say, the travel, money, goods, services. Analyse that. If you're doing something in the EU, have a word with somebody. It's unlikely that there isn't a solution. So far, fingers crossed, I'm tempting fate, every question we've been asked, we've come up with an answer to it. So it is possible to deal with this and turn it round. Change can bring opportunity. You know, this region, with the largest inward investment site, probably in Europe, possibly in the world, the university, the way we're working together in a collaborative way, I think we could actually rebalance the economy because we're in a better position, particularly for international trade, than our other regions in the southeast. You know, simple as that. So hopefully that was on time, upbeat, and gave some practical solutions.
Thank you, Neil.